Hey everybody, this is probably take 6 or 7 to this video here. It's Glenn from Pet Food Puzzle Guy, and I'm going to try to get through this without getting emotional. It's taken me 5 or 6 times and I can't seem to do it, but those of you that know me, and if you don't, my whole purpose of my channel is really to debunk all the bad information out there about pet food and pet nutrition. It's just awful. I wish people had to be a board certified nutritionist in order to have YouTube channels. I wouldn't be here, but then at least pet parents that love their animals would get valid information. But right now it's just, the social media monster is just out there, and it's terrible. And I have done videos blasting. It was a Cam and Dana and Rachel and all these people spewing all this stuff, and sometimes they get too mean. But you know, this week I was reminded that we're all trying to do the best for our pets, and we all are kindred spirits. The one thing we all have in common is we love our animals. We want to do the best for them. So even the people that get on and leave nasty comments to me, which are not very many, to be honest, but we have to try to see through that everybody's trying to do their best. But you have to be careful that you don't let emotion drive your decisions, and let the facts and the science-backed facts drive your decisions. And so I've been just looking at all kinds of stuff, and I found a blog that I started looking at his comments, and they were just ridiculous, just over the top stuff. I thought I'd heard everything. He actually had some garbage in there I hadn't even heard before. And I was ready to get on here and just blast this guy. I was going to let him have it, because the stuff he's saying is so dangerous to pets' health and so destructive. And so I was just curious, and this is a blog, this is not a YouTube channel, but he had his story. So I went to his story, and that's when I realized, you know, I have to remember this channel is not how to fix your plumbing or how to weave baskets or go hiking or whatever. It's a very emotional, important topic, and I think that's why we have such a close community, those that have joined me. But we all have the same motivation. We want our pets to live as long as they possibly can and be healthy, and we can enjoy as much days of snuggling with them and evenings of sitting with them on our lap or by our side, whatever. And that's why we all, if you're watching my channel, you're just like me. Well, this guy, David, who has this blog, is just like us, same way. But I want to share his story. And he adopted or rescued an adult cat, male cat named Rodney, that he named Rodney. And see, I'm getting emotional already. So like I said, this is like my 6th, 7th time trying this. I'm going to get through this one. So he adopted Rodney, had him for a couple of years, and he died. He was diagnosed with kidney disease, and the vet put him on prescription diet KD, kidney care from Hills, and Rodney died. And years later, he learned a little bit more about nutrition somehow through God knows where. And he decided something very noble, and I do mean this in a noble way. He decided something that was so bad, losing Rodney the way he did, he was going to do something good, and he started this blog to review pet food. And I'm going to stop there, because it's really important. Those of you that are old enough remember the rest of the story from Paul Harvey. That's what I'm pulling on you here. All I told you was he adopted a cat. Cat got kidney disease, put him on KD, the cat died. That's how Rodney sees it, okay? And the loss is terrible. And it reminded me, reading his story, I got to ease up on the guy. I can't blast him the way I really want to blast him, because I know his motive is so sincere. And again, there's nothing more noble. If you learn anything from my channel, I hope you learn a lot. But I've learned in my later years, when something bad happens, the best thing you could do is take it and make something good out of it. Do something good to counter the bad. So what he did is very noble. Unfortunately, he was so misdirected that the information he's putting out there, I have to fight against, because it's just horrible. It's just really bad. It's going to affect the health of other animals if people are influenced by him. So that's why I'm here. It was my motivation, that's why I made this channel. But finding his story, it just reminded me, I'm not going to blast him. I have to respect the man. He's getting the information just like many of you are from a lot of bad sources. And, you know, all we're all trying to do is the best. This week, my daughter, who she's grown and married, and she is an animal lover like me, a dog lover just like me. Every dog she meets is her best friend. She's rescued a few. She rescued one recently, sweet 5-year-old dog, and tragically, after 3 or 4 weeks, it was killed. And it has been very hard for our family, and I just can't seem to get through this part. But those of you that have lost animals, and I'm sure if you're on this channel, and so you've been through it, you've lost those animals, and I've been through enough of it, and but this was just too tragic and too for me. I thought the hardest thing was losing a pet, having to make that decision, or whether, you know, you lose them through an accident or through being stolen or euthanasia or whatever. I think I've been through probably every situation. But now I've discovered something new, that having your child go through it and watching them go through it, knowing what it feels like, it's worse. So those of you that are old enough that have grown kids that are animal lovers like you probably can identify with what I'm saying. And the only reason I'm sharing this, because it's been a rough week, but it's because when I so wanted to just blast this guy. I so wanted to be like the rest of the world, that we're the good guys, they're the bad guys, let's just fight and be nasty. And I can be that way, trust me. I've been that way most of my life. But I realize with this channel, anybody tuning in, whether they're for me, against me, whatever you want to call it, we all want the same thing. We just want that animal to live as long as possible. So I'm not going to blast David. And I want to tell you the rest of the story, because I just told you the simple facts. Wait till you hear the story. The rest of it really will blow your mind. So I hope you're still with me through the intro, and then we'll get right into it. But I appreciate you sticking with me through that. Okay, so let's hear the rest of the story. I'm not going to try to sound like Paul Harvey, but here's the rest of the story. So this cat gets diagnosed with kidney disease. David feeds it KD based on the veterinarian's recommendation, and the cat dies. End of story. No, there's a much bigger story, and again, this is so important. You know, so wait till you hear this. This is so wild. It just drives. It's incredible. So here is. Let me show you a picture of Rodney. And David writes on his blog, Rodney was already an old cat when we took him in, and it wasn't long until we became inseparable, buddies of man and beast, and we can all identify with that. At 13, so he's 13 years old now, and he sadly developed problems with his kidneys and was given 6 months to live. Now, let me just stop right there. Again, I've worked with vets for over 3 decades. If a vet is suggesting he only has 6 months left, it's got to be stage 4 or stage 3 renal disease. So there's not much kidney function left at this point. It would have been great to catch this earlier. That's why I can't preach enough about doing blood work when your cat hits age 7 or 8. Catch it early, and we can make a big difference versus this diagnosis. So anyway, let me get back to his story. So he's been given 6 months to live. So we begin feeding him an expensive prescription kibble recommended by our vets. Hill's Prescription Diet KD Kidney Care dry food. He lived to the ripe old age of 21. Did you hear that? He was diagnosed with stage 3 or 4 renal failure at age 13, and he died at age 21. I'm just going to let that sink in. You can do the math. You can think about that any way you want. You all have different experience with kidney disease. And that reinforced my opinion of the food we'd fed him. That's a pretty valid, I could see it reinforcing him. That would be listed as a pretty good success story. If you have a renal cat any doctor out there, I know there's a few on our channel, on our community. You get a cat diagnosed in stage 4 renal failure at the age 13, and he lives to be 21. Yeah, I think I'd chalk that up as, wow, dietary management really worked the way it's supposed to. Okay. But again, the rest of the story continues. It was only in later years that I reconsidered. What is it that he's reconsidering? Yes, he lived to an old age, but after we made the transition to the prescription food, he was never the same cat. So either we could blame the food that he was never the same cat, or the fact that he is a geriatric cat living with renal disease. That could affect things too, maybe a little more than the food, maybe. But after we made the transition to the prescription diet food, he was never the same cat. He became very frail, docile, and not the cheerful fella he was before. Okay, this is an old cat. Old cats act a little bit more like old cats versus young cats, right? So now he's frail, docile, and not the cheerful fella he was before. He developed other ailments, and we lovingly helped him through those too. And again, this guy is a kindred spirit. He lovingly helped Rodney through other ailments. But you got to love the guy, but you see in the story here, he's starting to question himself over the loss. Totally understandable. It's human nature. My poor daughter is going through the what ifs, and I should have, and all this other stuff, right? When you lose a pet or anybody, a family member, we all go through that. So he's going through that. I can respect that. We did our best, but his quality of life was never as good as it was before. Well, renal failure does have that effect, okay? And unfortunately, old age has that effect. But so did the food help? That's his question that he writes. I'll never know the answer. This is what really, I wish I could talk to David and say, yeah, actually you could know the answer, David. I'm sorry, but it's pretty simple, okay? I'll never know the answer, but we'll continue to wonder. The quality of the food we fed was far from what you would expect to feed a carnivorous animal, and the scientific factor touted by the brand was not as scientific as I originally believed. So now he's questioning the science of the diet that the vet prescribed. I wonder why. Why do you think he's questioning that? Sure, it's that, that guilt. Could I have done something better? Whatever. Okay, not realizing if he had talked to anybody within within the pet food industry or the veterinary profession, they would say your 13-year-old cat in stage 4 renal failure lived that long to the age of 21, and you're questioning it? Are you kidding me? Okay, so what does he say here? Now he's questioning the science of the diet, but why? He kind of, you could hear that hint, right? The carnivorous, as dry food, and given the importance of moisture in a renal diet, there's such a huge discord. Feeding grains to a carnivorous animal to promote health fundamentally doesn't sit right. Now, I will say he did catch on to one fact that is true. If I were his veterinarian, I would have said feed canned, because the added moisture, most of us know, it's just going to help the condition as well. It's one of the points that we want to do is add moisture, okay? So yes, he could fairly, I guess you could question, hey, you should have fed canned instead of dry. Veterinarians a lot of times recommend dry because cats either won't eat canned, it's as funny as that sounds. And if you look at the sales of most therapeutic diets, it's dry. It's what the client wants to feed. Now, maybe in this case, David would have done anything. So the vet, yeah, okay, maybe he should have said canned, okay? But dry food, vets know, they see the results on dry food, even with the lack of moisture. But here's David grabbing any straw he can that's going to build on that guilt that he did something wrong and he shouldn't have done it. So let's keep going. Would he have done better on a different food? Well, I know of 3 renal diets out there from Royal Canin, Purina, and Hills. I know all the innovations that go into KD versus the others. I mean, I trained veterinarians on all these diets, so I knew them intimately. He went with the very best. Could it have been canned? Okay, I'll give him that. But still, he did pretty darn good for that cat, and that cat responded obviously very well. Would he have done better on a different food? Would he have lived longer or lived less, or would his last years have been more buoyant? Questions to ask that I'm sure are tearing his heart apart. And how did he get to this point? How did David get to this point of guilt that he should have done better? And you can see he's already saying, he's already there. My cat was a carnivore. I fed a grain diet. There's no science behind that diet. This was garbage. My vet shouldn't have done it. Shame on me, right? That's where David's going here. So let's continue on. How did his pet food reviews come about? Pet food reviews started a long time before this website was created and the first review was written. Okay. As with many personal interests, it started with a small piece of experience. If I can contribute that first piece of experience to the death of my cat Rodney circa 2005, but even more so to what I subsequently learned in retrospect about his latter years of ill health. So it's years later, matter of fact, it says it here. A few years after Rodney passed, during the melamine pet food recalls of 2007, I was given a great deal of research on the American pet food industry and asked to publish it on a website to inform others. I read every word and it began to open my eyes. Prior to 2007, there was little public awareness of pet food, pet nutrition, or any understanding of what pet food really was. The melamine recalls were widely publicized, and it should have been, and a huge eye-opener to consumers. But over the last decade, social media has played a key part in raising awareness. Let's stop right there. There's been lots of recalls. There's been all kinds of issues you can talk about with pet food and how it should be done and protocols and everything else. The melamine recall of 2007 was a blatant, on-purpose poisoning of an ingredient from China, okay? It was not, really, if you think about it, had nothing to do with how the pet food industry works or, I've shared in other videos because Menu Foods could make the stews and gravies that Purina, Hills, everybody else, all the guys out there, they could make canned, they could make dry, they couldn't make what people were looking for. So Menu Foods stepped in and they would produce those few items for all those different companies. That's why it was so widespread when that ingredient got put into all those different brands. It has absolutely nothing, it was such a horrible thing because it was done on purpose, okay? So, now our eyes are open how evil the pet food industry is because of the melamine poisoning. They don't call it poisoning, they really should. That's what it was. It was on purpose, it was done on purpose, and they didn't know it was going to be poisonous, that the Chinese people that put it in there, they just wanted to get the protein level up. But no one was testing for poisons in the food. Now they do, of course, we have to test for all kinds of stuff. So here he is, his eyes are being opened. Unfortunately, they're being opened to the wrong thing. He's listening to the wrong people all of a sudden. And again, this is years after poor Rodney has passed. Now he's starting to learn the truth. And now social media is creating awareness. No, social media is now allowing the pet food marketers that go with every trend in the book, whether it's low carbs, whether it's kibbles bad, whether it's grain free, whether it's all natural, holistic, whatever, the pet food marketers are having a ball because, and David is a perfect victim. And what is David doing? He took his new knowledge now, and now he's going to share it with the world, which sadly is only going to harm animals and give misinformation to loving pet parents. This is why I have my channel, okay? Please, somebody, a friend that is an animal lover just like you, share my channel with them. It's like those of us that know better need to get out there and start sharing the truth because there aren't that many outlets out there. Animal Doc Ray, she's awesome, a veterinarian that preaches the truth. There's a few others. I'm going to start sharing them because the information has to get out there. We have to stop this misinformation. And I love David. The guy's, I'm sure, a great guy, but his information is horrible. It really is. Now, I could probably go 3 hours with the nonsense this guy has on his website, and I don't want to do that to bore you, and then I'll lose you anyway. So I'm just going to pick out a few things because different stuff I haven't seen before. Okay, what's the truth about Hill's Science Diet? Take a look at the ingredients on any bag of Hill's prescription or Science Diet dry food. You'll find mostly grains: wheat, sorghum, corn, rice. Shouldn't these animals have a diet mostly of animal or whole prey? So here you go, the whole prey. He's one of these, my dog's a wolf, and he does in his website say that he's convinced that dogs are carnivores too. Not so much carnivore like a cat, but they're carnivores, they're not omnivores, which, I'm sorry, David, but there is no, he says there's a debate. There really isn't a debate. It's pretty obvious. Just talk to the people with the credentials, the people that can show you scientifically why dogs can handle carbohydrates well. They don't need the taurine that cats need. I mean, they're carnivore and omnivore. It's very obvious. So don't want to spend a whole lot of time with that. But so of course it's the ingredient thing. I want to see meat, just like my, my buffet syndrome. I want to spend my money on meat, not on other things. Never mind, I want to spend my money on balanced nutrition. I just want meat. Just give me meat, okay? So he's in that ball camp. And of course, he's got his whole premise is on Rodney, which is a cat. So of course, carnivore is his big thing. Here you go. Here's another one. This was kind of new. This was interesting. Why do vets recommend Hill's Science Diet? And I think I'm going to put prescription diet in there too. He doesn't say it, but I'm going to put it in there because I say this all the time. You hear from me, even vets that don't know much about nutrition and aren't interested in nutrition, they'll recommend a prescription diet because they see 10, 12 animals a day. They've been doing this for years. They see these diets work, right? So this is what he says. In my experience and in communications with many veterinarians, I have to stop there. Just his communications with many veterinarians, other places, this is he talks to lecturers and nutritionists, and he just goes all over the place. And he's just, he's been in this for about 10 and a half years, something like that. Or, just this is his thing, just like kind of is for me. Again, I wish he just shared his story before he says a word out of his mouth. Yeah, I had a cat that was stage 4 renal failure at the age of 13, and we put her on KD and she lived to be 21. But I really was not happy because she acted like an old cat with renal disease, and I'm sure they would have just put him in his place right there before he even got into, but I think, I could have done that. And I would have loved that. What would you have fed Rodney that would have given him more time on this earth? You tell me, and I'm sure whatever he comes up with is going to be total stupidity. So anyway, here you go, going on a rant here. In my experience in communications with many veterinarians, the most common reason may surprise you. Here we go. Vets have seen these products work. Whoa, sounds like something I've said in about half a dozen videos, more than a half a dozen videos. But how can they work if they're stuffed with cereal grains like I mentioned earlier? And you guys know me, how many times have I said that, especially in the comments to people that, oh, it's full of grains and it's crap and it's blah, blah, blah. Wow, you got to really be a good nutritionist to take crap and grains and dissolve urinary stones and manage arthritis pain and reduce the toxins in the blood and reduce the workload on kidneys so that a cat can live another almost 10 years. Boy, doing that with just crap and cereal, that is pretty amazing. I got to admit that they are talented people. What's his answer? Here we go. Again, you gotta love David. Why does Hill's Science Diet work? Now, he's saying Science Diet, which I guess we're gonna say, because it's true. I've seen, many of you could even say, I was on a grocery food, whatever. I switched to Science Diet. My dog just looks better, and he either lost some weight or gained some weight. His stool quality is better. I mean, but I know almost any brand can say that if your animal's healthy. But it's when your animal is sick and we can improve their blood values and their attitudes and give them longer life. That's pretty amazing. It's not an easy thing to do. So why does Hill's Science Diet work? The answer may be simpler than we could ever imagine. You ready for the simple answer? Here's just one simple consideration. I'll have to put this up. This is too good. Most pet foods are very poor quality. It doesn't take much to offer a pet food marginally better. So when you're feeding Purina dog chow and pedigree and all this other stuff, when you switch to Science Diet, because that stuff is so bad, they're actually going to do much better. So vets see an improvement in pet health when they are transitioned to Hill's Science Diet or prescription diet products, very likely for this reason. Pretty convincing evidence, wouldn't you agree? Now, again, he really shouldn't put science diet and prescription diet in the same as far as seeing a difference, because you're dealing with a sick animal. We can look at blood values. We can look at x-rays of urinary stones that are dissolved. I mean, you know, he's really kind of muddying the waters here. Hill's diet's full of grain, and I'll stick purine and rocaine in there. They're marginally better than these other foods that are full of grain. So I don't know how they're marginally better, but somehow vets see a difference when they use them. Never mind the decades and millions of dollars of research done in nutrition science. None of that matters. It's just because that rubbish is really bad and this rubbish is a little better. He actually calls it that somewhere here. That's why vets see a difference. So if your dog has renal disease, your cat has urinary stones, your dog has arthritis, your dog has food allergies, whatever, it's just because it's marginally better than the junk food they were on before, okay? Which is saying a lot about all the other brands. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Here we go. Unfortunately, it's a glaring oversight. So let me back up a little bit. An animal comes in with an illness and poor blood values, and a few weeks after the transition in diet, their blood results show an improvement. Miraculous? No, it's actually science. It's not a miracle. Unfortunately, it's a glaring oversight. Most kibble is absolute rubbish. Here we go. Junk food, a convenience product designed for profit. Sadly, because business is business, and if these manufacturers put their pets before profit, they'll never succeed as a business. Until the businessmen behind those businesses will never own a Lamborghini, which is generally the driving motivation behind a business. So, okay, so if you don't put profit first, you're not going to earn your Lamborghini, and that's the whole purpose of business. This guy must be a communist or something, because he actually goes on to the simple facts. Blame it on capitalism if you wish. So, oh, okay, because you have to make a profit, or trying to make a profit. I wonder who's paying for all those board-certified nutritionists that work at Hills and Royal Canin and Purina. It takes about 12, 14 years to get to that point. I can't imagine the student debt they have, and they need to get paid, and they go to these companies, but let's make sure nobody makes any profit. This should just be a non-for-profit thing, I guess. And I guess the little companies that I'm sure, and it's kind of funny that now here I'm getting a little in a rant here. This guy on his blog, there's plenty of advertisers. There's plenty of foods that I've reviewed on my channel that are pretty much garbage as far as the excess nutrients. I don't need to name them. You guys know who they are. But guess what? They're advertising on his blog. They're paying him to advertise their products on his blog. So maybe he started with the Rodney story, which again, I made a big deal out of it because I respect it. But now he's into, a little bit of capitalism going on there, David, that you got all these ads. So, maybe you should just be doing this out of the goodness of your heart and the memory of Rodney instead of for profit. So I digress. Let me stop right there. Okay, folks, I am going to stop right here because I don't want this video going too long. I appreciate it if you're still with me. The guy says a lot of dumb stuff. I'll put his logo there if you want to go, just as a good lesson in misinformation, but you can get that anywhere. But while I was doing this on my phone, I just do this on my phone, a message came through from YouTube, and I'm going to put it up here. I hope this guy doesn't mind, right? It's public information if you put it on YouTube. But this D. Velez, I'm not sure who that is, but I can't see their profile thing there. But I want to read this to you. Actually, I'll put it up. Hills is mostly grains. Too much grain increases the carbs in the food, which isn't great for dogs. Plus, it's just cheap fillers instead of high-quality proteins. No thanks. Wellness has a lot more protein in the first 5 ingredients, which are the bulk of the food. Yes, the first 5 are important. I've talked to a pet nutritionist. Okay. And Wellness, the brand, and Origin ingredient panels beats most Hills except for maybe the puppy recipe, which is pretty good. I will definitely not be subscribing to your channel. Very deceptive. There you go, folks. I mean, how perfect that would come at the time. Please share my channel or my videos with your friends that have pets that they love and love dearly. Here's this lady or gentleman, don't know who, but let's just real quick, and I'm going to end it with here. Too much grain. So they look at an ingredient panel, they see corn, they don't understand the value of corn, they think it's just a filler because they've been told that by this pet nutritionist who probably got 9 hours of whatever and paid some money for a certificate, whatever. You should have heard the board certified nutritionist talking about all the so-called pet nutritionists out there. So anyway, back to, this is so perfect. This is why I'm doing the channel I'm doing, because of this person, whoever they are. So whoever you are, thank you. You don't have to subscribe to my channel. I just need motivation now and then to keep doing what I'm doing. So carbs are bad. Of course, carbs can be a great energy source. Wellness has more protein in the first 5 ingredients. Yes, let's just load up your dog with all the protein we can shove into a kibble. That makes total sense. Said no one that knows anything about nutrition. What else? Yes, the first 5 ingredients are important. Yes, they're important to pet food marketers who know how to manipulate the ingredient panel to get you to believe what you believe. But the ingredient panel is nothing but a tool to manipulate you. It has nothing to do with telling you the nutritional value of that food, but you don't seem to understand that. And you're not going to subscribe to my channel, which is a shame because you would learn something. What else do they say here? I've talked to a pet nutritionist. Yeah, I can only imagine. And I guess the pet nutritionist has said that wellness and origin ingredient panels beats most hills. Absolutely they do. Hands down, I'm with you 100%, because they're designed to beat hills. They're designed to look really good. But if you watch my videos, I have done nutrient comparisons on both of those foods, and neither one of them is very good. And they cost a lot of money. Origin was what, $4 a pound, where Science Time was only $2.67, something like that. Man, I couldn't have paid this guy or woman, whoever, to post this while I was making this video. It's just crazy. Oh, and the puppy food is pretty good. You know why? Because puppy food is higher in protein, so I guess meat went further down the ingredient panel, so he's happy with that. So I won't join your channel. You know, we can't save everybody. We can't help every pet parent, but I'm going to do my best to help whoever I can. And again, the only way I could do that, it's not through you subscribing. I mean, I know YouTube's and all that stuff and liking and everything. I just want the information out there. So share it with your friends. You know, it's not that hard to copy and paste a link and send it off, but there's somebody you know that can benefit from this. It will make them not go through, I mean, think of poor David here. He has to live with the guilt that he basically killed Rodney or gave Rodney this horrible life because he listened to that ignorant or greedy vet that put him on that terrible food, and Hills is terrible. We've got to get people away from these marketers and get them over to good nutrition. And that's why I'm here. And I'm sorry if this was a preachy video, whatever. It's just, it's been a week. And again, this comment just was a perfect ending, perfect finale. So take your pups for a walk. It's awful and freezing and snowing out, so no walks today, but take your beloved pet for a walk or play on the floor with them. And tonight when you're watching TV or reading a book, put them on your lap or next to you and appreciate every moment you have with them, because that unconditional love, very little compares to it. And one day they're not there. So thanks for listening. God bless everybody. We'll see you next time.